Veterans True Choice Act of 2023. It was introduced in January 9th of 2023, and I signed up for an account, congress.gov, for the first time ever to test it out and to try to receive updates on legislation that I care about, like this piece of legislation. Well, to my pleasant shock, it's actually working, and I did receive an update. This is the first update that I have received, and it shows that there is a new co-sponsor on the legislation. So now there's a total of 12 sponsors, co-sponsors of the legislation, it looks like. I have no party affiliation, but I did notice that there is a specific party, the Republican Party, that is 100% all the politicians are sponsoring are affiliated with the Republican Party. I thought it was really interesting that literally not one Democrat, correct me if I'm wrong, is sponsoring this piece of legislation. I have a lot of different thoughts on this. Each party is very extreme, in my opinion, these days, and I have no party affiliation to either one of them. I don't subscribe to either party. But what I've noticed is that, like, the Democratic Party, I think, and the federal union may be lobbying the Democratic Party successfully to basically do everything possible to keep the people employed at Veterans Health Administration, for example. I used to be a part of the AFG union that I'm referring to when I used to work at Veterans Health Administration. And what I learned was so much. And I actually have a chapter about that in the book that I wrote and I'm editing right now called Veterans Affairs Whistleblower Retaliation. But my point is that Veterans Health Administration, I learned the hard way from being an employee and a patient there in the past, is just an employment machine. It is not dedicated to anything else. Veterans Health Administration, one of the arms of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, the Veterans Health Administration is just dedicated to employing people, and that's it and nothing else. And that's the way it's going to be. That is their number one objective, is becoming an employment machine for people above all else. And very self-serving employment machine specifically to their management. And it's very well insulated from any form of accountability whatsoever. And so a piece of legislation like this that would allow eligible military veterans to opt out of being in Veterans Health Administration and to choose to get health care elsewhere outside of the massive dysfunctional bureaucracy that it is would be a 100% threat to the continued indefinite employment of a number of employees that work there currently, to include management. So it would make sense, if my theory is right and the union is lobbying Democrats, that they would not want to co-sponsor this. I heard the other day about how much money every single year for 6 years that someone in Congress would have to raise in order to stay in office. And it keeps people like myself from ever being able to participate at a high level political level, because you pretty much have to sell your soul to be a politician. That's just the reality of it, no matter what party you're with. And that's the way it is. Our government is corrupt, period. Money in politics ruins everything. And so I think that's why Democrats are not co-sponsoring this piece of legislation, because they need to keep getting that money, in my opinion, speculative of course, from their supporters, who I believe may be the union, who want to keep, obviously, people employed at Veterans Health Administration, regardless of what veterans like me want as a patient. So this piece of legislation, the last time I read it, it had approximately 7 pages, including all the fluff in it. And it was very straightforward, and it seems like I would be one of the veterans that'd be eligible to opt out of Veterans Health Administration and choose Tricare Select instead. I did another video and it covered this at length, but this is in the very beginning stages. It's literally only just been introduced, and I don't know if it's ever going to be passed or how much longer that could take. If it is passed, I think it's going to be at least a couple of years before it happens. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I believe. And it's definitely very slow. It would be life-changing for me if this were passed and I was eligible. It would be life-changing for a number of veterans that want nothing to do with Veterans Health Administration ever again. And it would be so empowering for eligible military veterans that want to opt out. So, and it also would lead to, I imagine, the end of employment for a certain number of people at Veterans Health Administration. But Veterans Health Administration is supposed to be for eligible military community members, i.e. veterans, and not just some massive bureaucratic employment machine that's self-serving, mostly to their extremely terrible management.